Man, after narrating so many of these stories, it doesn't really seem like a good idea to get married. I was married to my wife for 19 years before I discovered she was cheating on me with 3 men over the last year. My wife and I are 54. We have 2 daughters who live on their own. My wife has been a home health nurse for at least 22 years. I worked for the military, basically a government contractor. She started as a nurse working in hospitals, but an opportunity arose to make a little more money as a home health nurse, so she jumped on it. Nothing jumped out at me at first. She wasn't on her phone, she was home when she said she would be, and our sex life didn't falter. I didn't go through her phone, and we trusted each other. We had no secrets. I had access to her phone, and she had access to mine. Well, I would imagine that's the way it should be. Couples shouldn't keep shit from each other. When the girls used her phone, even when they went to another app on her phone, they didn't find anything suspicious. For the whole 19 years, nothing was out of place, and I mean not a damn thing. When the girls were in school and had soccer practice, she would take them if I couldn't and pick them up when I couldn't. We took vacations together if we had to wait until each other's schedule permitted it, then we took off. As I said, I did not know of any underlying issues until I had to go out of town for a weekend. As soon as I reached my destination, I called my wife. Well, she didn't respond for the first 12 hours, which was a red flag in my book. She has never gone that long without responding to me in any capacity, and she would text me to let me know she was with the patient, because her phone was set to send those responses if she was with the patient. When I finally talked to her almost a day later, I asked her why she hadn't responded. She responded that she was busy. I said, just busy? So what made you so busy that you couldn't reach out to your husband? We got into a heated discussion about that, but she told me that I sounded controlling and that I was being ridiculous. I hate when they do that. Her response made me angry, and I didn't talk to her for the rest of the weekend. That was the first time in our marriage that we went a day without talking to each other. When I returned home that Sunday night, it seemed my wife had totally changed. It was an eerie transformation. When I left Friday, she was a loving wife with a caring and affectionate demeanor toward me. Now, she seemed like this cold bitch. For some reason, I didn't try to initiate anything with her that night. Her actions around me when I returned projected rejection if I tried to initiate any kind of intimacy. Well, she goes to work Monday morning without saying anything to me. No, I love you, or I will text you later. None of that. I would not lie. Her reaction toward me when I came home made me angry because it wasn't like her. She has never displayed that type of behavior. I thought about it all day at work. Why didn't she contact me for most of the weekend? At about 1:32 p.m. while I was at work, I received this long text from her apologizing for this past weekend. She said she was really busy with patients and had to move from one patient to the next. I texted her back to forgive her, but the problem is that, 1, she has never worked weekends since becoming a home health nurse, and 2, she always told me about her shifts or anything related to her job or where she would be. When I got home from work, surprisingly, my wife returned to her old self. She made dinner for me that night. After dinner, we went to the beach, watched a movie, fooled around, and went to bed. Over the next few weeks, this pattern of hers continued. Let's just say I was blind, truly blind. Well, one day I was taking out the trash. We also had a small trash can in the garage. When I dumped the small trash can into the bigger trash can, a condom wrapper fell out of it. I froze, and I immediately thought, what the hell? My heart started beating fast right away. We don't use condoms and haven't used them in 19 years. I took out my phone and took a photo of it. I didn't say anything to my wife because I knew she would give me some lame excuse as to why a condom wrapper was in the trash can in our garage. Well, when she came home that night, she seemed to be a little preoccupied with her phone, something she hadn't done since I bought it for her last year. But this time I didn't say anything. Something was going on. She was hiding something. I just knew it, and the condom wrapper was just the beginning. Well, my wife goes to bed a little earlier than usual, and the first thing I did was pull our phone records. We have AT&T as our cellular provider, and I went over all the phone numbers that I know of. Out of all the numbers I could verify, 3 phone numbers were being called, or texted when I knew I was sleeping in the middle of the night. I also asked AT&T to send me a printer of the latest two bills because my home printer wasn't very good at printing in bulk. I called all three of those phone numbers. They all had male voices attached to them. I did not leave a voicemail. I dialed star 67 so my number wouldn't appear. Over the next week, I continued to monitor these three numbers coming from my wife's phone, and through my observation, she must have been getting up while I was sleeping and calling these men or texting them. I made a note of everything I found, the condom wrapper and the three phone numbers I found. I didn't say anything to my wife. I had a horrible feeling in my stomach, just horrible. My anxiety was rising and it was starting to affect my sleep. On one Wednesday afternoon, I made a curious call to a divorce attorney to set up an appointment to talk to her. Well, she didn't waste any time. She wanted to know why I came to see her. I told her I found a few suspicious things that were not adding up. I told her about the condom wrapper and the phone numbers that were being called or texted at odd hours. Then she asked me, "What does your gut say?" I told her something was not adding up. Then she said, "You have two options. A GPS tracker. In Georgia, it's allowed if you own the vehicle." I told her I owned both cars. "Your second option is a private investigator." She says private investigators are expensive, but they can save you lots of grief and money in the long run. I thanked her for her time, but before I left, she gave me a card from a private investigator she uses in her divorce cases. As soon as I left the attorney's office, one of my daughters called me and told me she was at the house and she came home to visit. When I get home, I greet my daughter and we go on the back porch and chat. Then she said to me that she tried to reach out to her mom, but she never called her back or texted her. She said it's been weeks and she hasn't responded to her. All I said to her was that her mom was busy with new patients. I was lying, obviously. I didn't know why she didn't respond to her daughter. When my wife came home later that night, our daughter asked her why she hadn't responded. She said she was swamped, and my daughter stared at her and said nothing else. It was like she was confused. My daughter stayed for 2 days and left. When she left, I went to Amazon's website, bought a GPS tracker, and placed it on my wife's car. I owned the car outright. Nothing was out of place for the first month, and I looked at the tracker. Over time, I began to learn her route, but I didn't see anything unusual. But the phone calls and text messages to those numbers were continuing. I was perplexed, and I was determined not to accuse her of anything until I had my proof. So, 6 weeks in, I haven't found anything other than the numbers on my AT&T phone bill and the condom, and the tracker didn't provide anything because the GPS tracker showed she was at a place no more than an hour. Well, one night after work, I called the private investigator the divorce lawyer referred me to. When I met the private investigator, he asked me what brought me to seek his services. I told him I found a few suspicious things regarding my wife, a condom wrapper, and a few suspicious numbers on our phone bill, but I didn't want to accuse her until I had something concrete. He told me his service was $4,500 for 2 weeks, half down to start and half when finished. I paid him $2,750 for the first week. He told me when he had something, he would reach out to me. He would not do anything over text. He said he would call. Within 5 days, he saw my wife with 3 men, once in the back of a laundromat, once in another guy's home, who was married, and another guy, apparently a male nurse. Here we go, these damn nurses again. Once I had this information, I went to see the divorce attorney I saw earlier and filed for divorce based on adultery. I specifically told the attorney I am not paying any alimony. The whole time, I haven't told my wife anything. We haven't been intimate, but I still told her I loved her every day. Once I found out she was with these 3 men physically, I didn't touch her. Just over a month had passed before she was served with divorce papers at her office. To my surprise, she didn't say anything. When she came home that day after getting the divorce papers, she let me know she got the divorce papers, signed them, packed her shit, and moved out. We had the divorce hearing 2 months later, and she didn't object to anything my lawyer pitched. We had a savings account that we split, and I got the house, but she didn't want it. I let her have the car I bought for her, a 2019 BMW 550i, and I kept the Cadillac Escalade. As of March 29, 2024, my daughters don't know their mother cheated on me and we are divorced. I will wait for that, but I will tell them when they come home for a visit. For the one guy who was married, all I did was send his wife a packet. I didn't leave a forwarding address or my phone number. I want to personally thank Tony for sharing my story. I am only sharing my story because sometimes we think we know our partner, but in reality we don't. Even after being married so long, I had no idea my ex-wife would betray me like that. Well, sounded like she was checked out, but let me tell you, most divorces are ugly. They don't end this smoothly.